Chapter 89 to 93. Wearing his everyday kimono, Orochimaru wandered through the major towns of the Land of Water, in search of anything that might interest him. Because of Sasori, he can't leave the Land of Water as per their original plan, and because there is close to no enemy in the Land of Water that would require both him and Sasori to act at the same time to deal with, therefore he obviously didn't stay with Sasori. The turmoil in the Mist Village has been going for quite a while now, and this turmoil has exhausted most of the vitality of the Mist Village. Several of the shinobi clans with strong and famous Kekkai Genkai like Kagaya clan is destroyed, Yuki clan too is near destruction with the rest of the members alive living in fear and suppressing their Kekkai Genkai, even Hozuki clan has very few of the shinobi left. Most of the ninjas of the Mist Village defects because of the turmoil which has even led the Mist Village to create a special hunter nin unit in its Umbu department. The village of the Bloody Mist has been too harmful to this shinobi village. The only good thing for the Land of Water is that they are in an isolated state, surrounded by water, and neighboring Konoha Village and Cloud Village have their own issues to deal with in the peace talks, so they simply don't have enough energy to turn towards the Mist Village. Otherwise, even the survival of Mist Village would become difficult. As Orochimaru was passing through a street, a burly man carrying a sharp sword stepped in his way and said with a crazy expression, "Hand over all the money you have." Seeing the person in front of him, Orochimaru stretched out his tongue and licked his lips playfully, as he said in a mocking tone, "An idiot who doesn't even realize what's good for him. It's really sad." The burly man was furious at being mocked and raised his sword high to show Orochimaru who's the boss. Ding! However, before he can even strike at the person in front of him, the sword in his hand fell on the ground, following which he also fell on the ground with foam coming off his mouth. At this moment all he could see was a small green snake, thinner than a finger had bitten on his throat. The snake crawled through his body and went back to Orochimaru, who neither glanced at him nor did he take out his hands from the pockets of his kimono from the beginning to the end and walked past him. The burly man was already dead. Orochimaru naturally didn't care. Orochimaru continued to stroll around the Land of Water. In his travel, there were very few people who dared to make trouble with him because even the most incompetent ninjas could feel Orochimaru's cold and vicious aura. Only some of the most ignorant civilians would dare to step forward in front of him looking for death. Passing through a corner, Orochimaru suddenly stopped and his gaze was directed towards a garbage pile on the corner of the street. At the side of the garbage dump, a young child wearing dirty and torn rags was breaking the moldy piece of bread into small crumbs and distributing them to a few skinny street cats that sat around him and affectionately nudged him or licked his cheeks. Orochimaru was a little interested as he noticed that although the child was very young and extremely skinny, he has a good chakra, really good for his age. Licking his lips, Orochimaru walked slowly towards the garbage dump. The sudden arrival of Orochimaru terrified the child. He curled up in fear and wanted to run away from the dangerous aura he felt from the person, but thinking of the small cats that were trembling in panic, the child gritted his teeth and opened his arm in their protection. Orochimaru curiously looked at the child's action, as he noticed the few pieces of bread crumbs lying on the side of skinny cats. After a little stare competition, Orochimaru asked, "What is your name?" Although fearful, the child replied meekly, "H. Haku." Orochimaru was a little thoughtful. He glanced at Haku's eyes, only to notice innocence and kindness within them. Shaking his head in disappointment, he turned and started walking away. Orochimaru can clearly see that the child is suffering from hunger and malnutrition, but he is still giving away all the food he has to the street cats. Even if he has good chakra, that kindness in those eyes makes the kid unsuitable to be a ninja, that have to be heartless, so he left the kid to his own devices. This is Orochimaru's twisted kindness for the innocent child. But after taking just a few steps, he suddenly stopped and thought of the child named Yugo whom he took under his wing not very long ago. Jogo is a child that can absorb natural energy, as such he is helpful for Orochimaru's research of the Cursed Seal. Looking at Haku, Orochimaru murmured, such a pure child might be able to carry the power of Cursed Seal, he might even be able to harness natural energy for the Sage Mode. While Orochimaru was considering this, Sasori appeared at his side. Sasori slightly glanced at Haku, who was more horrified by the presence of both Orochimaru and Sasori, but Sasori didn't care about the other party's vigilance and directly turned towards Orochimaru as he stated, "Let's go, the target I am looking for has finally appeared." Orochimaru smiled slightly, breaking through his thoughts, and asked, "Are you certain you are looking for a person, not a corpse?" Gritting his teeth, Sasori stated, "I will turn him into a corpse myself." Orochimaru rarely sees Sasori so annoyed, so he asked casually, "Who are you looking for anyway? I don't have time to run around with you. It's a ninja of your Konoha village. Land of Wind." With Yamada's assistance, Kuroto finally found the traces of the descendants of the Rorin citizens after a whole month of search. Turning over to a sand dune, Yamada pointed at the oasis at the far end, and said to Kuroto, "The survivor of Rorin that you are looking for is there, Mr. Mu." As Kuroto looked over, he saw a circle of caravans parked around the small oasis. Some people were coming and going around it doing various tasks, like fetching water, looking after camels and sheep, some were involved in the cooking job, and etc., etc. Kuroto frowned when he saw them and asked in a confused manner, "Why are there so few people in their tribe?" The entire population of the tribe was 300 people roughly, which is 2 less compared to his expectations. Although there weren't many survivors left, they shouldn't be so few. A local guide that a grass ninja found during their search hurriedly explained to Kuroto, ever since they abandoned the Rorin city, the people of Rorin have lost their livelihood, and most of their people died in their travels. These are the only ones left. Kuroto asked the guide, even if these people didn't settle in any town or another permanent settlement, were their lives so miserable? The guide shook his head, he was going to explain something, but suddenly something caught his attention and he pointed in that direction, "Look there, Mr. Mu, and you'll understand the cause." Kuroto and other grass ninja looked in the direction where the guide pointed only to see 2 sand ninjas came to the camp around the oasis and started some sort of negotiations with the people. The 2 sides naturally appeared to be discontent with this, and after a short quarrel, the 2 ninjas of the sand village left the camp and gradually disappeared. Kuroto asked, "So, why did the sand ninjas appear here?" The guide said with some pity in his words, "All I have heard is that the sand village is imposing taxes on the Rorin survivors. The 2 sand ninjas should have been here for collecting the taxes." After a little bit of thinking, Kuroto understood Sand Village's intentions. How much tax amount could Sand Village obtain from a small nomadic tribe that has its own troubles in survival? Tax collection is just an excuse to monitor the remnants of the Rorin survivors. Additionally, the Kazekage would have probably hoped that by succumbing to the economic pressure the people of Rorin would move to the Sand Village. If this happens, Sand Village can legally claim the Dragon Vein. Kuroto shook his head with a sigh, he doesn't care about the small movements from the side of Sand Village. It is natural for Kazekage to do such things for the sake of Sand Village, not to mention he would also be worried about the presence of such huge amounts of chakra. In fact, it would be too abnormal if he didn't do such things. When Kuroto broke out of his thoughts, the grass jonin Yamada asked, "Mr. Mu, do I need to go over and check for the specific person you are searching for?" Kuroto shook his dismissively, "No need, just locating them is enough." Yamada asked, "In that case, what about the task?" Kuroto nodded, and directly handed over the leftover amount along with the seal of approval of the successful completion. Yamada accepted the balance amount along with the seal of approval for the completion of the task and left along with the guide they hired. During the whole process, in fact, for the entire month, Yamada didn't try to snoop around Kuroto too much. Being a jonin, Yamada has long since discovered that Mr. Mu is also a ninja. After all, one can't continue running around the desert for a month, even if the body is strong, the spirit will be exhausted, but Mr. Mu didn't show the slightest sign of fatigue, indicating that he is also a shinobi. As an experienced ninja from a small shinobi village, Yamada has performed all sorts of missions that could even be considered too weird. If anything, there have even been cases where the task was issued by a ninja of a great shinobi village to assassinate a ninja of the same village. All this experience has taught him one thing, i.e., the less he knows things unrelated to him, the safer he will be and the longer he will live. Therefore, he didn't bother asking anything from Mr. Mu about his purpose and all. Kuroto was also very satisfied with Yamada's awareness. If Yamada had asked about anything or showed any signs of snooping around in search for Kuroto's purpose of finding the Rorin survivors, Kuroto would have no choice but to take that 10 million bounty reward on his head. But since Yamada didn't care, Kuroto naturally didn't bother either. After the grass ninja and the guide left, Kuroto concealed himself behind the sand dunes and observed the Rorin survivors. Not long after, his eyes fell upon a woman with red hair. The woman appeared to be around 20 years old, holding a baby in her arms with a melancholy expression. Kuroto was a little uncertain and muttered to himself, "Is she the one?" In his impression, the last queen of Rorin, Sarah, was probably 4 to 5 years older than Kakashi, who was traveling with Minato-sama at the time. Since Kuroto and Kakashi are of the same age, so Sarah should be 4 to 5 years older than him. This means her current age should be about 20 years old. And the age of the woman with red hair holding the baby in her hand appears to be the same. Among all the survivors present here, only she meets the condition, so Kuroto finally concluded that she has to be Sarah. "Finally found her," muttered Kuroto. With this, another problem for the artificial tail beast project has been solved. Kuroto thought with emotion. Since this task is done, he summoned the Kazekage puppet out of the scroll. The purpose of Kuroto's trip has been completed. Of course, he wouldn't be getting in touch with her this time. This is because if something strange happened to the dragon vein while he is out of the village, then there are chances that the suspicion would fall upon him, which is something he doesn't want to deal with just yet. Kuroto had two objectives in this 2-month trip. The first was to check out the seal technique used by Yandame-sama to seal the dragon vein. The second was to confirm the whereabouts of the last queen of Rorin. Now that both of the objectives have been completed, he only needs to leave the Kazekage puppet behind to keep track of Rorin survivors. While he can return back to Konoha and then find an opportunity to secretly sneak out of the village to steal the dragon vein silently. Puff. Before Kuroto can even do something, the lazy figure of the one-eyed viper appeared on his shoulder. Kuroto was taken aback by the sudden appearance of the one-eyed viper. Calming down his heart, he took out the scroll from its mouth to read the psychic communication sent by Orochimaru. After reading the content of the scroll, he couldn't help but sigh. That guy is so persistent. The information in the scroll is a warning sent by Orochimaru to inform him that Sasori has been able to track his movements in the Land of Wind, and now they will be coming here. In the search for the whereabouts of the remnants of the Rorin survivors, Kuroto traveled to many places and interacted with all sorts of people. Since Sasori was able to track his movements, this could only mean that someone might have been able to see through his disguise and inform Sasori. But it doesn't matter anymore, he has already completed his objectives, so there is no need to stay in the Land of Wind any longer. Thinking about the warning Orochimaru sent him, Kuroto also took out a scroll and handed it to the one-eyed viper. The content of the scroll records the detailed information of the Umbu members Kuroto collected up to now. This even details about the Umbu ninja that died in the war against the Cloud Village. This was one of the conditions Orochimaru presented to him in exchange for the information of Artificial Tailed. After so long, Kuroto has to obviously give his teacher some information. Not to mention, Orochimaru's warning this time also saved him from big trouble named Sasori, so Kuroto had to repay the favor. Konoha Village, Hokage Office. Sandame-sama stood by the window to observe the hustle and bustle of the village. Danzo silently sat on the side while tapping his crutches in impatience. The three members of the team, 11, nervously stood in front of the Hokage's desk, each one's heart beating more vigorously than the other because of the sound of the crutch tapping the ground. After waiting for little, while the three members read the information they were given, Sandame turned around and questioned the three members of Team 11, "Have you finished reading the details?" Kakashi and the other two nodded. "So, what are your opinions on the matter? Would Hyuga Kuroto do such a thing?" Sandame questioned. Guy was the first to answer. "Hokage-sama, I believe that Kuroto would never kill a ninja of the same village." Putting back the report in his hand, Kakashi also said, "I also have faith in Kuroto." In Kakashi's opinion, Kuroto even led back the team to help him, not to mention he opted to stay behind and secure a retreat for him and Guy in the face of hundreds of Cloud Ninja, and he even did so much damage to the Cloud Village, all for the sake of Konoha. How can someone so dedicated to Konoha betray the village? Even if the Root Ninja in the report did die in Kuroto's hands, the first attack must have been initiated by the Root Ninja. Kuroto himself wouldn't choose to take the initiative. Different from Guy and Kakashi, Shisui was a little more nervous, because different from the two he has already seen and knows of the Kazekage puppet, therefore he realized that it must have been Kuroto-san who killed the Root Ninja, and coupled with the tension between Danzo-sama and Kuroto-san just makes it all the more clear. But even if Shisui knew of this, he couldn't bring himself to tell this to Hokage-sama because of the promise he made to Kuroto-san. So, even if he felt guilty for hiding this, Shisui gritted his teeth and gave the same answer as Kakashi and Guy. Humph. Danzo snorted coldly, clearly dissatisfied with the three. Sandame sighed and said, "Even if Hyuga Kuroto didn't kill Kuroshimitsu himself, he does bear some responsibility for his death, as such he will be suspended from the Umbu Black Ops." "Hokage-sama, Hyuga Kuroto is a member of my Team 11, if he is responsible, I too am responsible as the captain of the team," Kakashi said calmly. "Your Team 11 concealed a part of the truth last time. This time a member of your team is suspected of assassinating a ninja of the same village. I suggest all the members of the Team 11 be suspended from their positions in the Umbu," Danzo said coldly. Sandame sighed and stated, "Very well, Team 11 is suspended from their position in the Umbu department." In Hiruzen's opinion, this suspension will only be for a short while. He didn't want to bother too much with this trivial matter in arguing with Danzo, so in order to appease Danzo who lost a ninja in his root unit, Sandaime chooses to temporarily suspend Team 11. After the 3 members of Team 11 left the Hokage office, Danzo stood up and slowly walked towards the Hokage's desk with grim eyes and stated, "Hiruzen, it's time to decide." Sandaime shook his head, "The matter has not reached such a point yet. Have you not considered how severe the losses of Konoha would be if they take the initiative?" After a short pause, Danzo urged, "Leave the matter in my hands, and I will make sure the damage is kept minimal." Taking a puff of smoke, Sandaime stated, "Have you not learned anything from the turmoil of the Mist Village? I will handle the matter of the Uchiha clan in the future, you don't need to interfere in this anymore." Even Danzo was left speechless when Sandaime mentioned the turmoil of the Mist Village. It wouldn't be wrong to say that the Mist Village has completely lost its strength to be considered one of the 5 great shinobi village. Therefore, no matter how desperate the situation gets, Konoha can't afford to have a tragedy like that with its current troubles. With a slight hesitation, Danzo said again, "Hiruzen, you can't let Uchiha Shisui stay in the Umbu. His strength has already surpassed what you or I can suppress. If he chooses to side with the Uchiha clan, you will be in danger." Sandaime nodded this time. The reason why Sandaime readily agreed to Danzo's proposal of suspending the entire Team 11 was also because of the fear of Uchiha Shirsue's strength. Because of the story pulled off by Kuroto and Shirsue, the Konoha Council now believes that the tragedy of the valley at the Land of Lightning was Uchiha Shirsue's doing and Hyuga Kuroto didn't have any part in that at all. Therefore, the members of the Konoha Council are more vigilant of Uchiha Shirsue. Coupled with his ability, Koto Ematsukami has raised the threat level of Uchiha Shirsue even higher in their eyes. In their beliefs, whether it is Sandaime himself or Danzo, there is no possibility of suppressing Uchiha Shirsue in one-to-one combat. And since the Umbu members under Hokage have the authority to directly enter and exit the Hokage building freely. Therefore, if Uchiha Shirsue chooses to side with the Uchiha clan, then one fatal attack is all it will take to kill Sandaime. Although Hiruzen believes Shirsue wouldn't betray the village, as the Hokage, he can't afford to take such risks. This is why he had no choice but to suspend the entire Team 11. A week later, before the end of the 2 months, Kuroto returned to the village. Upon returning he got to know of the suspension of Team 11, which didn't surprise him much, as the position of Umbu was no longer so important for him. From the very beginning, Kuroto's purpose of joining the Umbu was to learn some advanced jutsu. After that he would have naturally resigned from the Umbu department even if Sandaime didn't suspend him. Now that he has already learned the entire layout of the Hokage building, the details of security, and most of the information of all the Umbu members, he is confident in sneaking around if necessary. Even the fact that he served in the Umbu department has been added to his resume. So, continuing any further in the Umbu would only be a restriction for him, which is not something Kuroto wants to be put under. Although Umbu ninjas have all sorts of privileges, they are also subject to many restrictions. For example, ordinary ninjas can leave the village after receiving a task at the task center without any restrictions, unless of course, there is some sort of mandatory task assigned by officials. This is not the case with the Umbu ninja. All the tasks are given under Hokage-sama's directive, their every movement is under the directive of Hokage-sama. They must also report anything and everything to Hokage-sama, otherwise the consequences would be similar to that of now. In short, Umbu ninjas are too bound to the village. And such a thing may not be a problem for ordinary Konoha shinobi, but it is very troublesome for Kuroto, so the identity of being an Umbu ninja does more harm to him than good. Therefore, he didn't care about the suspension. But what confused him a little was why was the entire Team 11 suspended? Thinking a little, Kuroto guessed that it was probably because of the fear the Konoha Council has because of Shirsue's abilities and strength. Since he guessed the possible cause, Kuroto threw aside this matter altogether. Konoha will not make any move against the Uchiha clan until the peace talks with Cloud Village are finished. So, in this period Kuroto has to focus on the Tailed Beast project that will help him improve his strength by solving the low chakra problem. After all, strength is the most important factor in the shinobi world. If you are as strong as Madara, then no matter what anyone thinks or intends to do, you can single-handedly solve all the issues. For the next few days, Kuroto spent some normal days along with the rest of the Team 11 in training and sparring sessions, interacted with some of the clansmen of the Hyuga clan, and also spent private time with Yui. The purpose of this was to let everyone in the village know that he has returned. Danzo didn't send anyone else to monitor him these days, and Kuroto didn't bother to investigate the possible reasons. After Kuroto was done with all this, he isolated himself at his house to finally commence the artificial tailed beast plan. Now he needs to create the shell, or better yet the core of the tailed beast. The material used for this is purple clay, as described in the scroll given to him by Orochimaru. Kuroto has already done several experiments previously, and the result did indicate that the purple clay indeed has a very strong ability to isolate chakra. It is the perfect material for making the core of the artificial tailed beast. Byakugan. After scanning around his house to confirm that no one was spying on him, Kuroto took out the scroll that stored the purple clay, given to him by the Miko-sama. Looking at the pile spread in front of him, Kuroto opted to shape the core into a simple circular shell. Choosing a simple round shape is to make the structure as simpler as possible for better stability. After all, the artificial tailed beast is nothing more than a chakra battery for him. If he opts to make a fancy appearance like that of a chibi or kyubi, there is a probability that the stability of the structure would decrease. With this in his mind, Kuroto started to mold the purple clay as per the procedure recorded in the scroll. One thing to note is that the molding has to be completed without a break, i.e., Kuroto has to complete it overnight, neither can he pause midway nor are any mistakes allowed. Even the slightest of flaws will affect the stability of the structure, which might directly burst the core while filling in the chakra of the dragon vein in it. For this reason, Kuroto directly activated the Tenseigan, and using the inside of the Tenseigan, he continued with the task. He has to control the chakra extremely meticulously to avoid any after issues. It's accurate to say that when you do something with full dedication and focus, the passage of time only becomes faster. By the time he was finished molding the shell, there was already dawn outside. With a slight yawn, Kuroto looked at the time, as he deactivated the Tenseigan. Spending the whole night in the molding process, and because of continuous chakra consumption, Kuroto was really tired now. After sealing the core of the artificial tailed beast that he molded in a scroll, Kuroto got up and stretched his waist to refresh himself while looking at the rising sun of the morning sky. It took 2 days of continuous rest for Kuroto to fully recover from the after effects. From this alone the difficulty of the molding process can be judged. Now that the core of the artificial tailed beast is ready, the next thing Kuroto has to worry about is how to sneak out of the village quietly. If the problem was to only sneak out of the village, then it wouldn't be such a big deal for Kuroto, who stayed in the Umbu for a while, but the crux of the matter is that he will not be returning in just 2 or 3 days. After all, the distance between Konoha and Rorin is thousands of miles, so the journey alone would take a lot of time. Therefore Kuroto has to leave behind a shadow clone at home to deal with any issues that may arise in his absence. Now, this is where the main problem starts. Half of his chakra is already being used to keep the Kazekage puppet activated all time, and if he divides the remaining half to leave a shadow clone behind, then Kuroto isn't even sure whether he will have enough chakra left to successfully break the seal applied by Yondim-sama on the dragon vein. So, after thinking a little, Kuroto invited Shisui to his home. Shisui asked curiously, "Kuroto-san, what did you call me here for?" "There is indeed something I need your help with, but before that, I have to ask another thing," Kuroto said after a little thinking. "What's up?" asked Shisui. "Do you remember how I mentioned that during the Kyubi's rebellion it was being controlled by Sharingan?" After a short pause, Kuroto thought of the best words he could use, and then asked, "Have you noticed any strange person appearing around the Uchiha clan grounds? Or anything strange at all?" After a little thinking, Shisui shook his head negatively. Kuroto again asked, "No abnormalities?" Shisui said with a helpless smile, "Except for the Umbu ninja and Root ninja who are monitoring the Uchiha clan, there wasn't any other strange individual around." Uchiha clan was originally at the center of the village, but after the Kyubi's rebellion, they have been moved to the edge of Konoha, which has resulted in their alienation. Coupled with their reputation, ordinary villagers dare not go to the Uchiha clan grounds. While Shisui was pondering, he suddenly thought of something that was kind of weird. Kuroto didn't miss that and asked, "So, what did you remember?" Although a little uncertain, Shisui still said, "There was indeed something strange if you consider it." "What?" Kuroto asked inquisitively. "You should remember Shinichi, right?" After pausing a little, "He has been acting a little weird for some time, and the thing is that he has been going somewhere to train every day." "What's strange about that?" Kuroto asked while holding his chin thoughtfully. Kuroto doesn't have a very deep impression of Uchiha Shinichi, since he defeated the guy by tricking him. The process was so fast that it didn't leave any deep impression on him. So, Kuroto isn't quite sure how that's strange. At this moment Shisui said with a worried look, "The strange thing is that the Root ninja who has been monitoring him disappeared for no reason. This has also escalated a headache for Patriarch with Danzo-sama. If not for Hokage-sama coming forward to act as a mediator, this could have resulted in a serious conflict. No wonder Danzo didn't send anyone to bother me these days," Kuroto muttered silently. Kuroto felt quite strange in the past few days, as to why didn't Danzo send anyone to continue monitoring him. Now listening to Shirsue's words, it seems root ninjas had some trouble with the Uchiha keeping them occupied. But one thing to notice is that Danzo didn't take any actions against Uchiha Shinichi. It could only mean that the disappearance of the root ninja has nothing to do with Shinichi, or that there is no evidence that it was Shinichi's handiwork. Of course, Kuroto can't analyze the whole matter whether it was really Shinichi or not, but he has noted this matter to heart as it would require some investigation. After learning the current situation of the Uchiha clan, Kuroto turned the topic over to why he has called Shisui here today. Shisui, I have a request, I hope you can help me with it. Shisui hurriedly nodded. Kuroto-san, you are being too polite, don't hesitate to tell me, and I'll try my best to help you. With a serious face, Kuroto stated, I need to sneak out of the village to do something, and I don't want anybody to know of my absence. I hope you can help me with this by creating a shadow clone that can act as my cover until I return. The reason why he asked Shisui is that with the Manjikyu, Shisui could apply an illusion over the shadow clone that would be difficult to be seen through even by the likes of Sandim-sama, unless of course, the clone itself gives away the cover. So, Shisui is the best person to cover for him. Kuroto-san, what do you want to do? Shisui asked, a little surprised and sorta panicked. Nothing Kuroto-san does secretly has anything good, this was Shisui's thought. Kuroto immediately waved his hand to calm down the guy. Don't worry too much, my objective this time has nothing to do with the affairs of the village, it's just a personal matter. Kuroto also knows about Shisui's character, so he explained it clearly. The kid is so loyal to Konoha that he would rather commit suicide than choose the option of defection, even if betrayed by the highest authorities of the village, so if Kuroto didn't explain it clearly, Shisui might not help him even if they have a rather good interpersonal friendship. After hesitating a little, Shisui finally nodded in agreement. If that's so, then all right. Kuroto smiled, I am afraid you'll have to work hard this time because I won't be able to come back in a short while. As soon as he heard this, Shisui asked cautiously, Kuroto-san, how many days will it take for you to come back to the village? After thinking a little, Kuroto said, if everything goes well, then I should be able to return in about 15 days, but I can't be sure if there is some accident. What? 15 days? Shisui stood up in shock. Maintaining a shadow clone and an illusion over it for half a month is not a joke, even for Shisui. What's more, there are chances that Hokage-sama might summon them anytime and Shisui really has no guts to deceive Hokage-sama. Kuroto patted Shisui's shoulder making him sit again, and said with a wicked smile, you just agreed to help me a few seconds ago, now you can't go back on your words Shisui. But, Kuroto-san Kuroto hurriedly interrupted Shisui's complaint, don't worry, you continue helping me, and I will most definitely resolve the issue between the Uchiha and the village, we are friends, aren't we? And friends are supposed to help each other, aren't they? Although, Shisui was still very hesitant, listening to Kuroto's sweet talk and emotional blackmailing, he finally nodded after pondering over it. Okay, Kuroto-san, I'll try my best, but 20 days is the most I will be able to keep cover. If it goes any longer, I can't guarantee anything. Kuroto nodded, 20 days should be good enough. Although Kuroto has used the Kazekage puppet to keep track of Rorin survivors, he can still fly using the Tenseigan Chakra mode, and his flying speed will be extremely faster in the Tenseigan Chakra mode compared to the flying speed of the Kazekage puppet. So, after the two of them discussed some details that Shisui has to be especially careful about, Shisui left an almost identical shadow clone at Kuroto's house. With a cover arranged, Kuroto didn't delay any longer and directly sneaked out of the village. He had already selected the route he has to follow, so as soon as he sneaked out of the village, Kuroto immediately entered the Tenseigan Chakra mode and flew in the direction of the Land of the Wind. Kuroto also made sure to keep his flying height at an appropriate distance from the ground to avoid being accidentally discovered. With the cyan light of Tenseigan Chakra mode, the flashing figure appeared like firelight in the night as it rushed towards the Land of Wind. Land of Wind. Walking on the winding sand dunes, the young face of Sasori had a gloomy expression under the cloak. Looking towards the distant sky, he muttered in frustration, nothing here either. For the past 10 days, he has been searching in the major towns, black markets, and even several oases on the commercial route connecting most of the towns in the Land of Wind, but he found nothing at all. It was as if the trail of Hyuga Kuroto disappeared out of thin air. Ever since he managed to learn of Hyuga Kuroto's true identity, Sasori has been making plans to exact his revenge on the bastard. The only hurdle is that he is unable to track the kid. Hyuga Kuroto is a member of the Konoha's Umbu Black Ops, so his whereabouts are only known to the Hokage and the fellow teammates. Once he leaves the village, the kid has to perform secret missions under Hokage's directives, so his position can't be tracked at all. This time, Sasori finally got some tip from the informant in the black market, and he thought finally he could hunt down the kids, so Sasori rushed from the land of water all the way to the land of wind only to find nothing. It's like the kid has already left the land of wind long ago. Stay alive while you still can, cause Lady Luck won't always help you. After uttering these words with a cold snort, Sasori wrapped his cloak tightly and walked in the direction of the land of rain. Land of fire, inside a dense forest. Kuroto landed on a tree branch from the flight and gasped for breath as the Tenseigan chakra mode faded away. Because Kuroto can't afford to use all of his chakra so as to keep the Kazekage puppet active in the land of wind, he has access to only half of his total chakra volume. Due to this, he can keep the Tenseigan chakra mode active only for 5-6 minutes. Therefore, he has to continuously rest and recover chakra to continue his flight. Fortunately, Kuroto's flying speed is extremely fast while in the Tenseigan chakra mode, so even if he is traveling in short bursts, it is much faster than his normal running speed. While chewing the military ration pill, Kuroto spread the map on the ground and carefully looked at the route he has been following. It has already been 2 full days since he sneaked out of the village, and according to the plan, he should be able to cross the territory of the land of fire and enter the territory of the land of river soon. The main reason why it took him so long was that Kuroto chose a route that's too remote for human travel. During the entire journey, he has only seen the endless forest in sight, including the occasional mountains he crossed, with some small cliffs, rivers, swamps, and valleys. In fact, Kuroto was also helpless, so he had to choose this route. The Tenseigan chakra mode is too eye-catching, and if he doesn't take such a remote route, he will most certainly be perceived by the perceptual ninjas present in the Konoha guard posts spread throughout the land of fire. So, even if it is troublesome, Kuroto has to use this method. A few days later he finally crossed the border of the land of river and entered the territory of the land of wind. After entering the desert, Kuroto didn't rush headfirst and sensed the position of the Kazekage puppet. While sensing the position, he suddenly opened his eyes in surprise, so far away. The reason for his surprise was that the Kazekage puppet that was keeping track of Rorin survivors was about 200 miles away from his current position. Opening the map, he drew some dots with a pen. The initial point was the location where he left the Kazekage puppet before heading back to the land of fire. Using that point as the center of a circle, he scanned the map and finally locked his gaze on an oasis named Manto. Drawing a circle in the specific oasis, Kuroto muttered silently, "This should be their next stop." The Manto is a semi-popular oasis in the land of wind, and the important detail to notice is that it lies along the major trade route, and based on the trajectory the caravans of the Rorin survivors were following, this Manto has to be their next stop. After figuring this out, Kuroto immediately put away the map and headed towards Manto at the fastest speed possible. It took another 2 days to reach Manto after the high-speed flight. In these 2 days, the Rorin survivors also arrived at Manto. After arriving at Manto, Kuroto didn't rush to meet the Queen of Rorin but chose to put back the Kazekage puppet and restore his peak state. Wrapping a black cloak over his body along with a mask with a demonic look that he bought in a market, Kuroto made sure to keep his identity as hidden as possible. He didn't want to leave any trail that could lead someone to him for stealing the dragon vein. After doing all the preparation, Kuroto waited for nightfall. With the setting of the sun, the moon appeared high in the sky. Right now, there were many bonfires lit with groups of 2 or 3 people sitting around it while carrying out various activities, like chatting, dancing, playing games, cooking, etc., in short enjoying the rare leisure time of the day when they forget all their troubles. Queen Sarah didn't sit around with the others but was taking care of her young child alone while humming a lullaby in her private tent. Under the cover of night, Kuroto sneaked into the queen's tent without alerting anyone, and whispered in low voice to draw Queen Sarah's attention, who was distracted in sadness, "What are you thinking?" Sarah was shocked as she suddenly heard the sound. Quickly holding the baby in her arms, she drew a dagger while retreating towards the corner and looked at the person wearing a black cloak and a red demonic mask alertly, and asked, "Who are you?" Kuroto looked at the dagger as he thought to himself, that should be the Konoha chakra blade Naruto left behind. But to him, this thing didn't matter as he said lightly, "Don't be too nervous, I am only here to make a deal with you." Queen Sarah muttered in confusion, "Make a deal?" In their tribe there is nothing of value except for some animals, so she can't think of anything that might interest anyone, therefore she didn't relax her vigilance because of the masked person's words. At the same time, she was smart enough to not call for help, because she understood that for someone to sneak in here without even alerting anyone outside could only mean that the person is a ninja. And if that's the case, then calling for help will only put her people into danger. The fact that this person is here and didn't harm anyone outside means that he isn't here with the intentions of killing their entire tribe, so negotiations are still a possibility. As long as the other party is satisfied, he shouldn't take some drastic action. But the question is, what is he after? Kuroto nodded. Yes, make a deal. Queen Sarah wanted to say something, but because of nervousness and panic, she coughed, and the coughing didn't stop at all. It appeared that she was even having difficulty in breathing. Seeing her condition, Kuroto activated his Tenseigan and scanned her body. He was surprised to find that many of her blood vessels had clotting, affecting the blood flow. Then there was also a blockage in her lungs. From the looks of it, she was seriously ill. Kuroto frowned upon noticing this. You are sick. While trying to catch her breath, Sarah said weakly, I know. Looking around at her tent that didn't have a very hygienic atmosphere, Kuroto said deeply, you need immediate medical treatment. If not, your condition will continue worsening and you won't be able to survive even a few more years. Looking strangely at the masked person, Queen Sarah asked with a serious expression, just who on earth are you? What do you want from me? And why do you care about my well-being? Didn't I say it already? I am here to make a deal with you. However, Sarah shook her head. I can't think of anything that I can sell. Actually, you do. You have a priceless treasure in your hands. After a short pause, Kuroto continued with a mocking smile. It's just that this priceless treasure is actually useless for you and your people. When the masked person said this, Queen Sarah realized what the stranger meant as she muttered with a horrifying expression, why you are after the dragon vein. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.